Hello and welcome. My name is Marcos Quinones and this is Self-Psychology. Today's topic is the second part of a two-part series on addiction. Last week we spoke about the 5 stages of change that any one of us can be in at any moment. And the important thing about the 5 stages of change is that it's used as a motivator for us to move from one stage to another until we complete and terminate, until we've achieved our goal of stopping the addiction or anything. We can use the stages of change for any goal that we set for ourselves. Now let's quickly go over the 5 stages. The first one is pre-contemplation, and again, that's someone who doesn't know that they have a problem. The second one is contemplation, where they know they have a problem, but they're not ready to deal with it yet. The third one is preparation, where they know they have a problem and they're ready to deal with it and they're looking for resources. Fourth one is action, when the person actually stops the addiction or does something behaviorally for the goal, towards their goal. Fifth one is maintenance. So after they've achieved their goal, they need to maintain it for a while so they'll know that they're truly over the addiction. And finally, it's the termination, which again, some people don't believe that you actually get over an addiction or actually achieve a goal. We've always continued to try to get there. Again, very important to point out is that we relapse into previous goals, into previous stages, and that's okay. That's okay. The important thing is to understand that what's a relapse, where's the trigger, and try to avoid it when you continue again. Now this week, we're going to go through 3 of the stages. Okay, we're going to try to condense them down to 3 of the stages. The first one is when the person doesn't know that they have a problem. So the techniques here are for the family, for the friends, for people who know this person and start to get an idea that they have a problem, an addiction problem, and how to convince, how to motivate the person to change their behavior. The second one is for the person who knows they have a problem and they're ready to work with it, and they are they're ready to change, and they're in the action period and they want your help and they're just ready to do it. And the third stage is when they are maintaining. So they need your help in maintaining and terminating. And they need their help, not only the family and friends, but this is also for them. So the first thing we're going to talk about is when the person doesn't know that they have a problem. So again, this is more for friends, family, and people who know someone who they believe is addicted to some substance or some internet pornography or gambling, anything that they believe they're addicted to, and they want to motivate the person to take a look at that. Okay, to take a look at that and to see if in fact they have this addiction. Now, I'm going to give 3 techniques for each stage that we talk about today. Again, a lot of this information I received it from Mickler Bishop's book on addiction. Very good book, but again, it's for the therapist. So I'm going to interpret it. Now, the first thing for family and friends to do when they believe that they have a family member or a friend, or they know someone who's addicted to a substance, is to talk to them, to assess with them, to see what they think about what's going on. So let's assume that it's a person who's drinking. And so, you talk to the person and say, well, I noticed that you're drinking more than usual. Is everything okay? And just a very compassionate, accepting kind of way to talk to the person may get the person to open up and talk to you. But the truth is that it don't always happen. Usually people are defensive about their addictions. So they'll start to deny it and say, no, I only drink on the weekends, or I can stop whenever I want. It's not really an addiction, it's just something I like to do that keeps me busy. It's just something that I do to keep me busy. For example, if I'm at work, everyone goes out to smoke a cigarette, well, I just kind of tag along. But it's not that I need it. It's kind of a reliever. That could be one example of someone. So this will take a while, but once you get the trust of the person, you can ask them to take a test. Okay, that's our technique number one. Take a test. See if in fact you really are not addicted to whatever it is that you're doing, and try to go a week, try to go 2 weeks without doing it. You tell them that if they can go 2 or 3 weeks without doing it, then maybe they're not addicted, but that it's a good idea to take a test to see, because this will show them that maybe they are okay and they don't have an addiction. Because many people, even if they don't believe they have an addiction, they contemplate it. They say, well, maybe I do, but probably not. So the family member could, suggest, why don't you take a test for a little while. The next thing a family member could do, or if you're the person watching this video that is contemplating whether you have an addiction or not, is to picture yourself without the addiction. So let's say I'm a person that gambles, but I don't believe that that I have a gambling problem. Well, you ask the person, so picture yourself not gambling at all. Picture yourself not going out to the casinos. How would your life look? And have them go over it. Have them go over it in detail, how it might look. If they, if the person doesn't have every Friday night or every Saturday night, doesn't go out to drinking, or doesn't go to gambling, or when the person, maybe the person's addicted to food, and you tell them, how would it be if you weren't addicted to food, if you would eat like many other people, a little more healthy, and just eating for nutritious reasons, as opposed to feeling that you need it, that you need to have it, that you can't stand not being with it. So the second technique for the first stage is to have them picture themselves without the addiction. The third technique is to have the person talk about their goals. Okay? So this may even be good to start it up more early. Like maybe this is the first thing that you start to talk about, so you can get some trust with the person. Have them talk about their goals for life. What is it that you want to do with your life? Well, I like to buy a house. I like to buy a brand new car. I like to get married. I like to different things, different goals for their lives. And because you can use that later on, you can say, well, is this addiction helping you achieve that goal, or is it working against you? So again, I'm going to recap the 3 techniques for the first stage. And the first one, okay, is to have them take a test. To have them take a test and see if they in fact are addicted. Secondly, it's to picture themselves without the addiction. And finally, to tell you about their goals for life. Now in the second stage, the person knows they have a problem and they are thinking of changing. So this is more towards the person who either believes they have a problem or they're thinking that, you know what, maybe I do have a problem, maybe I should get some help. And I used the example last week of, getting a DWI, and that's maybe being a trigger for you to start thinking, well, you know what, maybe I do have a problem. Now the 3 techniques I'm going to go over here are for the person who thinks they have a problem and they want to see how bad is the problem and they want to start to do something about it. Okay? Now the first technique, it's called the drinking log, and we can adapt that to whatever the addiction might be, whether it's internet porn, gambling, sex. It's just basically a log. Write down every time you do the addictive behavior throughout the day, and do that for a week. And then at the end of the week, take a look at it. And that, usually we lie to ourselves. We say, oh, I only drink on the weekends. But when we bring awareness into what we're doing, then we start to notice a different pattern. We start to notice that we in fact do this addictive behavior throughout the week. Maybe in a lesser amount, but we do it. So what you want to do is a log. Okay, for example, a drinking log will have the date and time that you had your drink, what was the amount of the drink, and maybe even what was going through your head at the time. Okay, what was going on? What's the situation? Were you in your house by yourself? Were you out with friends? Were you having dinner and you ordered a glass of wine? What was the situation around it? Because that'll give you some insight when you take a look at this later. The second thing is called the lost list. And a lost list is a list of things that you believe you lost because of the addiction. For example, a job, a car, a relationship, a family, friends, different things like that. So you would create a list and you would directly relate it to something that you lost because of this addiction. And finally, the third technique is to create a list of the things that you like and the things that you don't like about yourself. You understand? So it's a list of things that you like and a list of things that you don't like about yourself. And what you'll start to notice with these three techniques, homework assignments, is that you start to get some emotion and some motivation, so you can stop the addiction. Because again, the addiction is something that you do that is like a compulsion that you feel you need to do, and you can't stand not doing it. But the fact is that you can stand not doing it. You can stop whatever addiction it is, but what you need is to motivate yourself mentally so that you can achieve your goal. And that's what these techniques try to help you with. They try to help you see that you have lost things in your life. You are addicted because you're repeating the behavior over and over and over. And there are things about you that you do like. So that'll motivate you to achieve some of the things that you like about yourself. That'll help you achieve some of the things that you like about yourself. So these are the three techniques for someone who's ready to stop the addiction, ready to change their behavior, and move forward. Now, I didn't list some of the changes that people sometimes make because I believe it's in an individual basis. For example, changing their friends, not visiting the venues that they would normally visit. These are other techniques that people with addictions can do, but it's on an individual basis. On a more global basis, I like to use motivational techniques that work on the thinking, so that when you're going to step out to have that cigarette, you start to think about, what are some of the things that you've lost because you've smoked. Like friends that don't like smoking, healthy friends. And then you think about it, and maybe that'll motivate you to stop. The third person that we're going to talk about today is someone whom has already changed their behavior and is trying to maintain it. So this is someone who stopped the internet porn, for example, but they still have the craving to actually go and do it. So what you want to do is to balance your lifestyle. So you want to create a list, and I'm going to join this with the second technique, which is to create a 3-column list. But create a list of the things that are important in your life. For example, job, family, friends, the gym, working out, your mental health, your eating, different things about you that make up who you are. And then you try to balance your life with these things. So for example, you work from 9 to 5, let's say. Then you go to the gym for an hour after that. Then you call some friends twice a week. And you go to dinner once or twice a week with some family member. And when you go to dinner, you eat healthy. And maybe you read a spiritual book, or you go to church, or you do something to help in your your spirituality. So you want to balance your life. You want to create a nice balance of things that keep your mood lifted, so that'll help in the motivation of stopping the addiction. For example, if you're drinking and you have a nice balance of things in your life, that'll motivate you to not drink and not go out to the bar every night, etc. The second thing, again, that I mentioned was the 3-column technique, where you fold the paper in 3 ways. And you put the 3 most important things in your life in 1 column heading, and you write down things below it. For example, your job. That may be, because it's a major part of what we do and we want to maintain that. Your job. Things that motivate you about your job. Maybe goals for your job. Things like that. The second column could be family and friends, and what do you like about your family and friends. How you want to make these relationships better. So it's motivating things to help you see that there are other parts of your life that is not the gambling addiction. Finally, we want to talk about low frustration tolerance. Now, low frustration tolerance means that we have a level of toleration for the things that we do. So for example, if I want to stop this sex addiction, right? Well, I'm gonna get a craving and I'm gonna want to do it, right? So how do I tolerate the frustration of not doing that addiction, right? Do I have high tolerance or do I have low tolerance? If I have an addiction, then I probably have low tolerance to manage to tolerate the frustration of not getting that need met, for example. So I need to take a look at this. I need to say, okay, I want to lift my tolerance. Now, how do I lift my tolerance of this sex addiction, for example? Well, the funny thing is that you can lift your tolerance in any way, and tolerance just goes up. For example, if you're the type of person that comes into your house from work and just takes your clothes off and throws them on the floor because you don't want to tolerate the frustration of hanging them up, then what you want to do is hang them up. Go through the frustration and tolerate the frustration and hang them up. And that little bit of toleration that you get will help you in your addiction. So you go out throughout your day and you see things that you really don't like to do, but you do them anyway, and that increases your tolerance. So then when it's time to think about that cigarette, you have the tolerance to not indulge in the cigarette, to not do the addiction. Okay? So I just told you of 9 techniques which will help you and your family members to